You're in a meeting. Someone asks a hard question. Nobody answers right away. The silence stretches for 3 seconds, then 5, and your stomach tightens until you blurt something out just to make it stop. But the real answer is far stranger than nerves. That silence was never empty. It was doing something to you, in real time. And the person who stayed quiet the longest was not uncomfortable at all. They were, in a real sense, running the room. Researchers at the University of Groningen, led by psychologist Namke Codenberg, studied ordinary group conversations. They introduced brief pauses, sometimes only 4 seconds long, right after someone spoke. Participants who experienced that tiny gap reported feeling less validated, more excluded, even mildly rejected. 4 seconds. Why would such a small gap register as danger? Because for most of human history, group cohesion was survival. A pause didn't mean, let me think. To an ancient brain, it meant something might be wrong. Codenberg's research suggests this reaction is automatic and fast, arriving before you've evaluated anything at all. Silence reads as threat. Threat demands resolution, which means whoever breaks the silence is usually relieving the tension, not creating it. Here's where it turns strategic. If silence creates pressure, the person willing to sit inside that discomfort the longest holds something close to leverage. Not because they're more powerful, because they simply aren't rushing to fix the feeling everyone else wants gone. Psychologist Albert Mehrabian's research on communication found that when words and tone send mixed signals, listeners trust the nonverbal cue far more. Silence is the most extreme nonverbal cue there is. It carries no words, so the listener fills in the meaning themselves, often reading confidence into a pause that was really just a pause. You see this in negotiations constantly. Skilled negotiators let an offer sit unanswered because the other party almost always speaks first, and the first person to speak after an offer usually weakens their own position. So if staying quiet hands you leverage, why does everyone instinctively rush to fill silence? Research on power dynamics, including work from Columbia's Adam Galinsky, shows a consistent pattern. People who feel less powerful in a moment feel the most urgency to speak, explain, or fill space. People who feel secure stay comfortable inside a pause. The discomfort of silence isn't distributed equally. It lands hardest on whoever already feels they have the most to prove. Here's the twist, though. Silence isn't simply a weapon for confident people to use on nervous ones. Push a pause too far, or use it too often, and people stop reading it as confidence. They start reading it as contempt. Codenberg's later work found that repeated, unresolved silences in relationships correlate with disconnection, not respect. Its power depends entirely on whether the listener believes the silence is intentional steadiness or simply cold. Think about the last time you rushed to fill a gap in conversation. A friend asked something too personal, and you rambled to cover it. None of that happened because you're weak in that moment. It happened because your nervous system was doing exactly what it evolved to do. The people who seem naturally commanding in a room are very often doing one thing differently. They aren't speaking more. They're tolerating the silence longer, letting a question hang slightly past comfort, letting the pause do work that words usually fail to do. So the next time a silence stretches a few seconds too long, notice what your body does before your mind catches up. The urge to speak and smooth it over is ancient and automatic, but the silence was never empty, and it was never really about you. The real answer was never strange. It was simply the room, quietly deciding who was comfortable enough to let nothing happen and who couldn't bear to.